Hey everyone, Jeremy Knopf here with another episode of the Public Relations Declassified live stream. And today we're going to be talking about how to use trending topics to create a better pitch. Now, this is something that's very important because when you're pitching the media, you need some kind of a hook, something to really get them interested in what you're talking about. And while in some cases, whatever it is that you want to talk about may be enough, more often than not, it's not. So they need something that's going to really create a powerful hook. And trending topics are one of the most powerful ways you can do that. And there's a few reasons for this. So one of them is a concept called social proof, right? If a lot of people are talking about a particular thing, then that means that a lot of people are interested in that thing. So by pitching whatever it is you're trying to pitch connected to a trending topic, something people are already talking about, it helps that reporter, that journalist, that anchor, whoever it is that you're pitching, it helps them to see that this is a story that's likely to get a lot of eyeballs, right? Or readers or listeners, whatever the case may be. And that dovetails perfectly into the other side of the equation, which of course is the media's business model. So every media outlet makes money either through subscriptions or through advertiser dollars, or in some cases, a combination of both. So the more people that want to go and see that piece of content, the better it is for the media outlet. So every single journalist knows this, every single editor, producer, anchor, whoever it is that you're pitching this to, and everybody connected to that story, everybody who's going to have a hand in whether or not it becomes a thing, they all know that their job depends on publishing content that is going to drive the most viewership or the most readership. So when you leverage these trending topics, it makes it exponentially more likely that you're actually going to end up landing that feature and be cited as an expert on that topic. So what I want to do is I want to break down, first of all, how to find these trending topics. Because you do need to get outside of your own little personal bubble. We've all got our bubble of the media that we regularly consume, the people that we regularly see and engage with on social media. So if you're just relying on what you see in those environments, you probably don't have a full picture of, what's really trending, what are people talking about on a bigger scale. So we're going to go ahead and break down a few of the ways that we can find these topics outside of our bubble, to find the topics that are going to be big enough that enough people are talking about that it will actually have an impact on our likelihood of getting featured in that particular media outlet. So the first one we're going to break down is X. Now, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with X lately. They've changed the algorithm. So lately I've not been seeing the kind of visibility that my content used to get. But from a research standpoint, X is still incredibly valuable. And what you want to do is when you log into X, you want to go to, I know you can't see the mouse, but you can see what I'm hovering over here. This is your notification. I'm sorry, we don't want to go to the notification. We want to go to the Explore tab, which is where I am right now. When you first get here, it's actually going to have on the For You tab up here up top. But we're going to go to the trending tab once we get to this page. And here we can see all of the trending topics, right? So you can just kind of zip down through here, and it's usually got a pretty good number of trending topics that a lot of people on X are talking about. You can also go to the news tab as well and kind of see, what else is going on here. And then it's got, trending in some other categories as well. Sports and entertainment. I think these may be tabs that come from what you select when you first set up your account. If that's the case, I'm not sure why sports is here, because I am definitely 0% interested in sports, but generally stick to the trending or the news tab to look for what's really trending on X, and look for some things that you could potentially tie whatever story you want to get into the media to current events. All right, so the next one we're going to pull up here is, let me go ahead and switch this tab, is Google Trends. So when you first come to Google Trends, you'll be on their homepage, and then you'll want to click on this Trending Now tab up here. And this is going to have everything that's trending in Google. It's going to have these handy little charts that show what the interest is. So like Heat versus Hornets, for example, you can see there was a spike and then it kind of leveled back off. Meadows DOJ reimbursement request, no idea what the topic is about. But if you look at the trending chart, it shows that it's just continually, for the most part, increased. It's dipping down a little bit. But this will give you a pretty good gauge as to whether or not one of these topics will work for you. And it's got a lot of topics here. You can blow this out, 50 rows per page, and you've got 590. So we've got 10 pages worth of trending topics here. So there's a lot of potential topics that you can work with here. Side note, for those of you who are members of the Spartan community, we've actually got software in the members portal that has a lot of this data as well. I'll be doing a kind of a private session with community members showing you all how to use that here shortly. But yeah, so there's a ton of data here. And then if you look across the top of this, you can also filter. Now, I always set it to United States because, let's be honest, we're in the United States. We're pitching US-based media outlets, right? We don't really care what's going on in India for the most part, or wherever else in the world. But you can select pretty much any country in the world. If I remember correctly, I think we can also break it down by states, right? You can set time frame. I like to usually keep it at 24 hours because that's going to give you the freshest data. That's going to show you what's had a big impact in the last day. But you can blow it up to 48 hours, and then you'll see some different data. And this can be good because if a topic blows up for a few hours, that's one thing. If a topic blows up and then continues trending for a couple of days or even a week, because you guys saw that we can set this to 7 days as well, that shows a little bit more staying power. It means there's more longevity to that topic, right? There may be, if it's something that just trends for 24 hours, you may get a quick burst. But if it's something that trends for longer, that means there's even more people interested, because generally it's not the same people who are just searching for it over and over and over. So we can also break this down by category, which can be super useful. And, you've got these other filter options. You can kind of play around with them and see. You can also do show active trends only, which can be handy because once it's died off, then it's no longer really relevant. So play around with these, see what kind of data you guys can find there. And Google Trends can be a wealth of information that you can use in your pitches. Reddit is another one. Now, I will preface this by saying, you know what? Let me. All right, so you can't see it super well because our little QR code is kind of over the top of it. But right underneath that home link right here, you've then got the popular tab, which is where I currently am. And you can go through the trending stuff here, see what people are talking about on Reddit. I will warn you guys, though, Reddit is filled with some of the worst human beings in the world you could ever imagine meeting. So just be prepared for some horrendous shit here as well. But there is good data to be gained from this in some cases. And then, of course, another option is going to the media outlets themselves. So look at what they're covering. Let me minimize that, get that out of the way. We scroll down through here, we can see some of the topics that they're covering. And if you see something that might be of relevance, you can take that topic and then go into, there should be a search field on most media outlets. And that's for quotes. All right, well, anyway, there's probably a search field somewhere, maybe kind of masked out from the interface here that I have with the streaming platform. But you can look through, you can look through the homepage, you can look through the various categories, see what's there that's relevant to you, your industry, what you're doing, and look for opportunities on things that they've covered. And then you can also go to other outlets, right? Don't just go to one. So like I've got Fox Business up here just as an example, but you can look at, CNN, MSNBC, Benzinga, New York Times. I mean, whatever media outlets are authoritative and they produce a lot of content, go look at what's out there, see what they're producing, see what information you can find. And if you're seeing a trend across multiple media platforms, then that's a pretty good sign that that's trending. So these are all some great ways to find the trending topic. So now what we have to do is we have to find a way to connect that trending topic to your pitch. Now, one of the ways that I like to do this is I look for a trend that is just starting. So one of the ones I'm going to show you guys here real quick is one that actually just went live a couple days ago. And that is, this was with a couple of our clients, Derek Carlson and Tatiana Zagorski. And they were talking about the topic of a proposal that the Trump administration made to allow 401ks to be used to purchase homes. And this is without like withdrawing the money directly and suffering the penalty and all of that. This is a direct option with no tax penalties or anything like that. So this was a story that we pitched to Fox 13. Obviously, it ended up in this article here, but it also ended up in a great TV segment. In fact, let me go ahead and see if we could pull that up.
My wife tells me she wants more excitement in the bed.
I don't think we need to hear this casino ad. We'll just let this count down. I'll talk a little bit, but yeah, so they were both on a TV segment and in the article itself.
Buying a home has traditionally been part of the American dream, but for many Americans, it's out of reach. Down payments are one of the biggest barriers for first-time homeowners, but there's a plan in the works now that could help out. Fox 13's Blake Devine is live in Tampa tonight. Blake, you found out about a new idea involving 401ks.
Haley.
That neighborhood looks sketchy as hell. He looks like he's about to get robbed.
Years old, which is why President Trump is searching for solutions. One idea that's picking up steam is allowing people immediate access to their 401ks.
With fresh floors, paint, and kitchen appliances, this home in Dunedin will soon be back on the market, totally transformed after Hurricane Helene.
We actually had water come up a couple feet, so the drywall was damaged, the insulation was damaged. We had to rip out all of those things.
We walked through it with Alfonso Di Girolamo, who supports a proposed plan from the Trump administration, which would allow homebuyers to tap into their 401ks tax-free for down payments.
I think it's a great idea because in my world, I actually use other people's 401ks and IRAs to help buy homes. And then I help and I do flips.
Right now, most Americans can't access these funds until they're 59 and a half. Otherwise, early withdrawals trigger taxes.
If you're able to pull out money out of your 401k, you have to pay a tax, which is your normal income tax rate, plus a 10% penalty on top of that.
Derek Carlson is a real estate executive who says many first-time homebuyers can't clear the hurdle of a down payment.
It's very difficult for a lot of these first-time homebuyers to purchase a home. Right now, the average down payment for a property is just over $60,000. That's a challenge.
However, he has some doubts when it comes to the idea of using your 401k to buy a home.
My concern is that they're forfeiting their future. They're forfeiting their retirement down the road to get something now.
Tatiana Zagorski is a real estate entrepreneur who's also preaching precaution.
An easy entrance into housing market without considering the long-term impact and without considering the financial situation.
And tonight, the question.
So anyway, you guys get the idea. So think about it like this. You know, I can go out and I can pitch Derek, Tatiana, Al, all of these folks to the media and talk about how they're real estate experts. I can talk about, you know, their expertise, their experience, their knowledge, and talk about certain things. But the reality is when we could take something newsworthy like this 401k proposal and tie it to them, now we have an entirely different hook. And it makes it a lot more likely that a pitch turns into a piece of coverage. So that was when a trend is first starting, right? We're very early on in this. We've talked about this topic in a number of other media features as well. But then what happens is that trending topic starts to blow up. It becomes more mainstream. Even more people start talking about it. So with the initial example, we've got kind of the early mover advantage. We want to be the first one to talk about it. That kind of helps you build momentum. It helps you establish yourself as an authority, as an expert. And then often what will happen is journalists will then see that and maybe reach out to you, or they see it and you pitch them, and now they recognize you. They recognize you as an expert, and it makes it a lot more likely for that to be a media feature. But then the other side is, as it starts blowing up, now more journalists are already aware of the topic. So when you pitch them, they're a lot more receptive. And if you pitch them at that time and you've already got previous media features because you hit it right when the trend was starting, it puts you in an even stronger position. Now, another way we can look at this is we want to look at the impact of a particular thing. Right? Maybe there's a new proposal. Maybe there's a regulatory change. Maybe there's something going on in the industry. We take that topic and we break down what the impact of that is to the people who are either in the industry or affected by the industry in some way. So this is an example of one that we landed for Tatiana, who was also in that Fox segment, on what can go wrong. What can go wrong when you're using AI instead of a real estate agent. And what triggered this was a few weeks ago, you guys may have seen a story in the news of the guy who used ChatGPT to sell his home instead of hiring an agent. And basically what he did was he had it, analyze his property, come up with pricing, handle the negotiation, all of that kind of stuff. And fortunately for him, it happened to work out. But a lot of times that won't be the case. If you've used AI in any capacity, you know that it often gets things wrong. In fact, it often flat out hallucinates. It'll make shit up. And it does have a propensity to be overly agreeable, right? It's going to tell you what it thinks you want to hear. And I use the word thinks very loosely here because we know AI doesn't actually think, but it tells people what it thinks that people want to hear. So you often could be getting bad advice by AI just because of the way that it works. And the other side of it is there's often nuance to complicated scenarios. Real estate happens to be one of those complicated scenarios. So if everything is perfect on a deal and everything is, by the numbers, then maybe a tool like ChatGPT may work. But let's say you've got something complex. Maybe there's issues with the title, or maybe there's a foundation problem, or any number of things that could go wrong in a real estate transaction, right? Somebody's working with someone like Tatiana and she understands all of the things that can go wrong. She'll spot things as a transaction unfolds that an AI tool would never even know is an issue. And so in this article that we got published for her at Inman, she breaks down all of the things that could go wrong and how those things could impact transaction, and really makes the case clear that, yeah, sometimes it can work, but it's not whether or not it can work. It's what happens when it doesn't, and how can that impact you. And for a home buyer or a home seller, if they're relying on an AI tool instead of an experienced agent who knows what to look for, they know the mines that are out in the minefield, so to speak. It's a very different scenario. So this was something that was all over the news. All the major national media outlets were covering it because it was a very wild story. We leveraged that trending topic to turn this into an article that now highlights her as an authority in her industry. And it really positions her above a lot of agents because she's got this insight and she's forward thinking, and she's, telling people the risks of this particular approach. So great way to use this strategy, incredibly effective. And it definitely played a huge role in this turning into a legitimate media feature. Okay, so another way that we can do this is missing perspective. So I love this one because there's only so much you can put in any piece of media content, whether it's an article, whether it's a TV segment. You can only say so much. You've got a finite amount of time and space. So there's going to be things that are important, but due to the constraints, they're left out. So this is a great opportunity to take that trending topic and then address what other people aren't talking about. But if you do this, you have to do it right. We can't just go and say, oh, well, hey, I saw you, you published this article about XYZ, and here's what you got wrong. Well, that's a pretty good way to make that journalist think you're an asshole and not get featured. But if you approach it from the perspective of, hey, I loved the article that you had, great insight. I especially loved point A, point B, point C. I really think it would provide a lot of value to your readers or to your audience. If you also address this, and I don't see anyone else talking about it, I'd love, to help you be the first one to bring that message out to the world. And that's a great way to highlight what they're doing, show them what they missed, and explain to them how that can benefit their audience. So in this particular strategy, this particular approach to using trending topics, we have to be careful that we are diplomatic about this, because if we approach it the wrong way, we will probably piss the journalist off, and it's not going to work out. And then one of the other ones that I love to use is kind of a contrarian take. So we'll go ahead and pull up this one here. This was an article that we had gotten published for Dr. David Phelps, who runs the real estate investing community, Freedom Founders. And he broke down from an economic perspective, basically that Gen Z is right and the economy doesn't work for a majority of Americans anymore. And, without going super deep into the article, we've all seen the younger generations complaining, wages are kind of stagnant. There's not really a lot of opportunities. Things cost more than they ever have. Basically, living is more unaffordable than it's been in a really long time. And unfortunately, a lot of people are pushing back and telling Gen Z, oh, well, you guys just don't know how good you have it. And things are better than you realize. And you just need to work harder, and you need to, be disciplined and not, go spend all your money on coffee and avocado toast. And the reality is there's some truth to that. But at the same time, there's a ton of validity to Gen Z and even, millennials issues with the economy. There's validity to their complaints. And so when we hit this topic, first of all, the editor at Newsmax absolutely loved it because it's something different than what everyone else is saying. It's a contrarian take. It's taking a topic that everyone's talking about, and it's kind of turning it upside down on its head and approaching it from a different perspective and highlighting how Gen Z is actually not wrong. The economy really is kind of a mess for a lot of people. Now, we have to be careful not to go overboard when it comes to contrarian takes. Don't say something outrageous or contrarian just for the sake of doing that. Only do it if that's a legitimate position, if you actually believe that, right? We have to be authentic. If you're just saying shit just to get a reaction, that's not going to go well. Now, something I will point out specifically on this article is this absolutely blew up in a good way, because for years, the younger generations have been told, oh, well, you guys are just undisciplined and lazy and the economy is great and you just don't know what you're talking about. For someone to come out and validate what they're saying, that got them excited. That got them talking. And they shared the hell out of this article. It created a ton of visibility for him, significantly more than a lot of the other media features, just because it was contrarian, but it was also validating what the younger generations have been saying. So they were super eager to share this and say, basically, look, like here's this essentially boomer, right? David is he's a bit older. So he is in the boomer generation. And here he is validating what they were saying. So we leveraged this trending topic, but then there was all of these other ancillary benefits that came with it. And it really drove a ton of engagement and a ton of visibility for David. And then another approach I like to use with trending topics is you take the topic that's trending and you make a prediction about it. So we're seeing a lot of this right now in a lot of different industries. The housing market, for example, real estate in general, there's a lot of talk about what home prices are going to do based on where they are, where interest rates are going to go based on various economic factors, what the economy is going to do based on, various factors in the credit market, for example, right? Like right now we're at the highest ever debt levels in all areas, right? Personal, business, and government. So you take the trending topic and you make a prediction on it, right? Where is it going to go? How is it going to change? How will it impact the industry? How will it impact the people who the industry serves? Look at how things could play out and then make a prediction based on, your own experience, your own background. And that's something that can definitely get a journalist's attention in a very powerful way. Now, a couple of notes on all of this. The first is that you have to effectively tie that trending topic to your pitch. So don't just take a trending topic and just loosely tie it together, right? So don't just say, hey, home prices are up and here's the trend and blah, blah, blah. I have a real estate expert who can speak on real estate. Like, okay, great. That doesn't say anything. It doesn't give the journalist any meat. Yes, they know the topic is trending, but what value do you bring to the conversation? The fact that you're in real estate doesn't mean anything. So you have to take a specific aspect of that and break that down in one of these ways that I outlined as far as how you're using the trending topic, the angle that you're tying it together with. The other thing is you need to stand out. And this ties back to the whole contrarian take side of things. Don't just say something outrageous just to be different. Only say something that you truly believe. There's a statement, Glenn Beck says it a lot. I'm trying to remember how it goes. Something along the lines of, I may not say everything that I believe, but I'll never say anything that I don't believe. And that's the way that you want to look at this. If you're coming out and you're saying the exact same thing as everyone else, your insight doesn't really bring any value. If they're going to repeat the same thing that everyone else is saying, they're going to take the quote from the giant authority that everybody's already quoting. But if you're going to come out and say something different, something that not everyone else is saying, then that makes you stand out and it gives something valuable to that particular piece of content, whether it's an article or a TV segment. And then, of course, the last thing is you have to be fast. If a trending topic is going on right now and you're like, oh, hey, that's great, I'll come back to that in a week. That's not going to work. When that trending topic is going is exactly when you need to hit it hard and fast. Don't wait. If something is popping up and everybody's talking about it, immediately either sit down and take the time to tie that to a pitch or, tell your publicist that you're working with the details of that trend and have them pitch something, right? We're constantly tracking and analyzing the news. I'm always looking at, all of the various things that are trending at any point and looking for opportunities to tie those trending topics into what our clients do. And we try to stay on top of that as much as humanly possible because you're going to have first mover advantage. If I'm pitching a journalist and I'm the first person that's pitched them that trending topic with that unique angle tying it to that industry, that gives me a significant advantage over competitors who may come to the table far later, right? If they feature my client because I pitched them at one of these trending topics, like right now, if somebody reached out and pitched one of the journalists that we just landed media coverage for one of those clients based on the trending topic, if somebody else reaches out to them, they're a lot less likely to cover it because they already have, and they already know that they have a qualified expert who can come in and talk on that topic, right? So when you do this, you're now not only getting early mover advantage, but you're also building and nurturing a relationship with that journalist, which means anything else you pitch in the future gets significantly easier to turn into media coverage. So stay on top of things, pitch as soon as you see an opportunity, and keep going with that. Okay, so that's going to segue us into Jeremy's PR PSA, which is if you want to get featured in the media, you need to tie your pitch to what people are already talking about to make your pitch more timely. So if we take that topic that people are already talking about, there's already social proof that demonstrates that this is something that a large number of people are interested in, we have a lot higher chance of that pitch turning into actual media features. So leverage that, stay on top of it, and use it as a powerful advantage, and you will get far more media features for yourself, and you will be able to then leverage that into even more media features in the future. And that's how you become a recognized authority in your industry, right? You're being cited as an expert. You're ahead of the curve. You see things before other people do, and you're sharing your valuable insight with the media, which in turn shares it with their audience. So it puts you in a very powerful position. So this is one of the strategies that I absolutely love because I know firsthand how powerful it is. And if you guys put this in practice, I promise you will get more media coverage. All right, guys. So that's going to be a wrap for today. If you found something valuable in this, I'd love it if you'd share it with anyone who you think may find value in it. If you're not already subscribed, pop over to YouTube and make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're there. And if there's anybody you know who can benefit from the information that I share, be sure to invite them to our Facebook group. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.